So I wanted to make a quick video outlining the steps, sort of the main steps and the main tools that I needed to swap out. This was the original 7S 26C movement that was in my Seiko 5. This is a SNK 803, but a lot of the Seikos have this same basic movement in it, which is good movement, but it misses two functions which are really nice: hacking and winding. Hacking is, you can see when you pull the crown out, it stops the second hand from moving, which makes setting the time a lot easier. And then winding is, of course, being able to turn, to wind the mainspring by turning the crown, which is something that this is a fully automatic watch, so it only winds by the rotation of the rotor. So if you don't wear the watch every day, it's really nice to be able, one, to set the time really accurately, and then two, to be able to wind it up before you get on with your day. So I know this is like a pretty common sort of gateway drug watch. People get into watchmaking after they have this for a while, so they get more and more watches, and then they stop wearing this one every day, and so being able to wind is really nice. So this is a good swap to make this more functional if it's in like a multi-watch rotation. So I think the first thing I wanted to do is just outline the tools that go into it. So I've got, I would say, a few more tools than absolutely necessary, but I'll sort of try to speak to that a little bit. So the first is like a wire cutter. When you get the new movement, the stem is going to be longer than it needs to be, so you're going to need to trim it down. So you'll definitely need something like this, and then these tiny screwdrivers are like multi-purpose tools. They're awesome, and honestly, if push came to shove, you could probably get this entire thing done with just these three tools. But I wouldn't recommend it. So there are a few more nice to have tools. I think getting two of these little pins I found. So this one's just a straight pin. Oops. And then this one here, I don't know if I can. I'm not going to be able, I'm probably going to have trouble focusing on it. Yeah, you can see. So I put this in the pin vise and bent it a little bit to a little bit of a hook shape, and that really helps. Just it helps with little sort of ancillary tasks that come up. I also have a pin vise. This is really helpful for just holding on to tiny things in general, and there are a couple of times where that's helpful here. Rather than pithwood, I have a chopstick that I sanded down to a point. This is a case back opener. This came with a kit that I purchased from Esslinger, just with a lot of these tools. Alternatively, there are these sort of rubber ball based case back openers, which I'll use for this now because it's just nifty. I also have a movement holder here, although for this particular one, I'll probably just use this little foam block or whatever to hold the movement. I think it makes it a little easier to move things back and forth when it's not actually clamped down. This is a tool for removing the hands from the watch. It's super nice. You also want, like, this is like a piece of plastic from like a plastic bag that I cut out to help protect the dial when you use this. You can also use these two screwdrivers in the place of this. Either or. There are a couple different ways to get the hands off. And honestly, that's like about it. So I guess if we just want to get right to it, let me try to focus real quick. Focus. There we go. Okay, so the first thing is just taking the watch back off. So this, you can just use a little pressure and it just twists right off. Okay, so you can see now that the case is off, you got. Okay, so I'm gonna try to show how to pop the stem off of here. It's gonna be a little difficult because I actually got the camera sort of in my field of view. Makes it a little more complicated, but you just want to move the rotor out of position here so it's not in the way. And then there's when the stem is in the first position, which means it's not pulled out at all, there's a little lever here. It's a little bit above the stem. And if you apply some pressure on that little point, it releases a little clamp and the stem will just pop right out like that. So you can do it with your fingers. I just, for simplicity, to make it easier for me, I had it so that there was a screwdriver there to help you just pop it out. So now, like I said before, there's no screws or anything holding it in, so that now that the stem is out, it's a pretty straightforward process to just work the movement out. It's just pressure fit in. You can kind of see this gray plastic gasket that kind of runs around the outside. I'm just gonna try moving it a little bit here, but if it doesn't start working with me right away, I'm just gonna go off camera. But this is one of those tasks where having these little pins is really nice. You just kind of slowly work around, and it'll, don't force it, obviously, which is just sort of a theme for everything when you're dealing with a watch. Okay, so I finally got it to pop up. It was just, it's just a working around. I ended up using a different tool, but the screwdriver would work. You just got to really just be patient, and eventually you'll find the spot that'll lift it up. It happened for me over here, which is sort of on the exact opposite side of the stem location here. So okay, so now this is popped up. What I'm just going to do is take my little phone thingy, whatever you call it, move it upside down, flip it over. Here she comes. Okay. So now that's you can kind of just set the case over to the side, and now you've got this exposed. So the next thing you're going to have to do, so the NH36 movement that replaces the stock movement here is a little bit different in that the date wheel and the day wheel, I think the day wheel is actually the same. It's the date wheel is a little bit misaligned. I think the day is actually as well. It's a little bit misaligned because this has the stem at 4 o'clock, and the NH36 movement is designed to have the stem at 3 o'clock. So there's so you have to take the date and date wheel that came with the original unit, that came with the stock movement, take it off and swap it out. That's probably the most complicated task that you have for this. Although it's not the most delicate task. I'd say the most delicate task is actually this next task, which is stopping the movement, lining up the hands and removing the hands from the watch. So I can cheat here because this already has the hacking function, so I can actually stop the second hand from moving. You can't do this with the stock movement. You won't be able to do that when you're doing this for the first time on the stock movement. Probably the best thing to do is to just wait until the watch isn't running anymore to do this, so that you don't have to worry about it. But yeah, so the next step is going to be removing the hands, and this is the most delicate. So I'll show you the two ways that I do it. So always put something, like a plastic cover or whatever over the movement to protect the dial. And then there's a couple ways you can do this. You can take like 2 screwdrivers. I'm gonna need to line up and look what I'm doing. You can take 2 screwdrivers, kind of move them in from under here, and then rotate them in opposite directions. You can kind of see what I'm doing here, and it'll pop them off. I have the fancier tool. This is the pinion and watch hand remover tool. It's specifically designed for this thing. So you just go off camera for a second, make sure I got everything lined up. This takes like 2 seconds to do it right, but if you get it wrong, you can mar the dial or you can bend the hand. So you really want to get everything lined up and make sure you do a good job. So get it clamped on either side of of the hands and then squeeze this outer part, and that just pops them right off. So now you've got you got the hands off. I had forgotten to mention tweezers is like a critical tool. So you want to have a good set of tweezers. I would say if you go to like Esslinger.com, is a place I go. Auto Fry is another one. They have these kits with all the stuff that you need for doing this kind of work, and they have little kits that are pretty reasonable. If you're just going to do this one and done, I don't know if you want to go to the drugstore and get tweezers for eyelashes or whatever. But I like doing this stuff, so I went ahead and got the nicer kit. It really makes things go a lot smoother. So just take those. You just want to be really careful not to scratch the dial and not to bend the hands. That's the biggest thing. Okay, so next step is going to be to pop the dial off. This is not so a lot of movements have little tiny screws on the side here. You've got to find them and unscrew them to pop it off. That is not the case. This is just a pressure fit. This is just a pressure fit dial. Again, it's that kind of cost saving that makes these watches accessible to so many people, which is really awesome. And it's the same thing. This is kind of a difficult thing to do from behind a camera, but you just got to find their little gaps there, and you just got to find them, and just this little 2-cent pin is probably the tool that I use the most frequently when I'm doing this stuff. See, there's just a couple little gaps here and here that make it so you can just work under there, and then just pop the dial off. Easy peasy. So there you go. Now dial's off. You want to put these obviously in someplace safe, because the last thing you want to do is like have your absent-mindedly set your hand down or set something down and squash them. That's no good. And then the next thing you got to do, this isn't quite as tricky or careful as removing the hands, but there's a little washer here. You can see this is a washer that pressure fits the day wheel down onto the watch. So this is just one of those places, and it's a little dangerous to do this from behind a video screen, but I'm just going to try it and see if I can get it to work. Yeah, I'm having some trouble with that, so I'm just going to try. I'm going to try a little screwdriver. That's another. And again, it's just one of those things. If you find that you have to start putting some sweat and muscle into any of these actions, it's always good to not do that. Just take a break. Look at the other tools you have around. Think about it for a bit. Yeah, see, I just slid the screwdriver under there and it just started popping right up. So it's just a matter of, yeah, boom. Okay, so that was, from a technique perspective, not awesome. I think anytime you do something where you've got something under pressure and it pops off like that, and you haven't anticipated it, then you're being dumb. So don't do that part. Or just don't hold a camera in front of your face while you're doing this is probably the lesson here. So then now that that's off, I'm pretty sure the day wheel just comes right out.